Good evening. This is a regular city commission meeting for the city of Largo. It is Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask that if you have a cell phone, please turn it to silent or off so that we don't have any interruptions. We're going to start tonight's meeting with an invocation, and then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to come together and gather this day. We ask you for your hand of blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work and our goals this day. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is a ceremonial item. We're going to recognize one of our own for some great accomplishments.
Good evening. Tonight we are celebrating Victor Otero's graduation from St. John's University with his master's degree in library science. Victor is a library success story. He began as a part-time library assistant in July 2016 and was promoted to full-time library assistant shortly thereafter. He was then tapped to become the library's community engagement librarian in 2018. In order to promote Victor to librarian, the requirement for having a library science degree was waived with the promise of achieving this within 5 years. Never one to shirk from a new challenge, he attained his degree in 3 years. Along the way, Victor oversaw a career in an online high school program in addition to his other staff duties. Since his promotion, he has helped 33 people achieve their dream of completing their high school diploma. In addition to this, he is now responsible for the disbursement of $500 scholarships to the Career Online high school students who are continuing their education at a college or trade school. Victor is an inspiration to staff and patrons. Through his dedication to education, he has proved this with attaining his master's degree in library science. Congratulations, Victor, and thank you for your inclusive spirit and guiding hand to all those who want to achieve greater resiliency.
Congratulations, Victor. I'm not sure if you want to say anything or I am going to say a little bit about the online high school program. It's if you haven't been, and I'm talking to my colleagues up here as well as the people out there, once COVID settles down and we have a graduation, it's such an inspiring evening, and I encourage you and thank you for all that you do for our library, our residents, and for that program especially. So we are spread out a little bit, but if you haven't noticed, Commissioner Hulk is joining us from home today. So I would appreciate a motion and a second to allow Commissioner Hulk to participate remotely.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Well, it was 6-0. Now she can vote on the next one. We'll now go on to citizens' comment. If you'd like to speak about something on the agenda outside of the consent docket, please wait until that item comes up. Do we have any cards?
I have 2 cards tonight. First is Pat Byrne.
I'm Pat Byrne, 700 Starkey Road, Largo, Florida. 20 days ago, one of the city's 900 employees submitted a formal written complaint to you. She asked for an independent investigation. You have ignored that, all of you. The employee has been a credible source of information with access to information that you obviously lack. Others share her concerns. Some of the issues affect other departments and the public. There are seeming parallels with the people and issues investigated elsewhere. Most responsible organizations investigate personnel complaints with far less emphasis than appears here. In refusing action, you are setting some dangerous precedents that only certain employees have the right and safe means to inform you about their concerns. That you get to pick and choose which problems to investigate and which to ignore. That you know enough to make those judgments. The last meeting told the public that you have one source of information. That was officially stated on internal management issues. That source has not kept you informed all along. Otherwise, you would not have been as surprised and confused as you appeared on television. Largo has made profligate use of consultants who often come back to you with what you already know. In this case, there's a request to investigate a serious matter which required an extraordinary event for you to even be aware of. The standards of Largo require openness and transparency. You depend upon what you've been told by one party, or you can seek the truth. As a taxpayer and as a voter, I call upon you to go on the record. Commission an independent inquiry are state-specific cause for denying this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Curtis Holmes.
Good evening. It's all right, my wife told me to wear it.
You gotta listen.
Always. I have to make a little comment on what was just said about Joan. I was very surprised. I read the article that Chris George did in the Leader and B. I don't have any. I've read all the public documents on this particular case, and I am really surprised that it is not being looked into. I mean, you got a 20-year employee there that I know I was the biggest critic of the Parks Department. I don't think anybody's going to argue that point. But my criticism of the Art Department was not about Joan. I always found her to be very professional. My argument was the money. That was my alpha and omega of the Parks Department, was the spending. That's all it was. But I found her to be an outstanding professional, and I still don't understand why she was terminated, and I think it should be public record as to why it was done, and even Chris George is leaning towards that. The second item, I brought this up at the last meeting, is about the $50+ million new city hall. I have been told that, number one, this building needs a lot of work. Well, for about $25 million, you could do almost everything this building needs. So you saved half of it. Secondly, I was told, and I'm not going to name any names here, but I was told you need the room for staff. Boy, that was a head scratcher, because the city of Largo, geographically, is as big as it's going to get. You are not going to change the boundaries. So it's already there. The only thing that's going to change in the city of Largo is population. That's it. You can put in more high density, which some of this high density I have a real problem with, but that's neither here nor there. But if you put in more population, what departments will be affected? Environmental services, they already have excess capacity going in. And now we have spent a lot of money on that. Parks Department, the parks are there. Solid waste, public works, that's already there. And you can increase public works relatively easily. So as you go through, you say, what's the one you're going to increase? Well, fire is already covered. The only department that you're going to have to increase for personnel is police. That's it. But they've got their own building already. So the question becomes, where in the administration are you going to have to find room to hire more staff? It's got really all the staff that it needs. You're not going to go in there and start hiring a whole bunch of people for administration. There's no reason to do it. And that's why I say, take the money, fix this building up, And in return, you've got 3 fire stations that need a lot of work. Those 3 fire stations are $10 million. Well, it was $10 million last time I checked. You can get those 3 fire stations fixed and pocket the change. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all the cards.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to approval of tonight's agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of August 3rd, 2021.
Mayor, I'd like to ask for a change in the item on the ordinance number 2021-59
What page is that on?
is on page 11.
Thank you.
There's a sentence that states, I believe it's the second sentence, and it says, in referring to me, he stated that teens needed a place to call their own, and that playgrounds gave them a place. And that's not what I said. I'd just like to have it struck.
So, would you like to have it struck from
Just that one sentence.
the whole sentence?
Yes.
Not just teens have a place to call their own?
That's stated later on.
Okay, very good. Any opposition to that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I'll entertain a motion with that amendment.
Move approval as amended.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Could I hear the consent docket, please?
Item 4, approval of amendment number 2 to the Emergency Medical Services ALS First Responder Agreement with Pinellas County EMS Authority. Item 5, award of scope and fee to GPI Geospatial Incorporated for professional survey services in the amount of $44,694.10. Item 6, award of contract number 21-C-712, lift station number 1 demolition to Kaminga and Rudvutz in the amount of $287,900. Item 7, approval of scope and fee for an engineering capacity evaluation of the reclaimed water distribution system by Cardinal Incorporated in the amount of $199,865 in accordance with Professional Services Agreement RFQ number 19-Q-666. Item 8, appointment of Anthony Serrano as a member of the Planning Board. Item 9, reappointments of Ted Jones and Margaret Linkhurst as members of the Personnel Advisory Board. Item 10, authorization to purchase new and approved replacement vehicles for the Departments of Environmental Services, Recreation, Parks and Arts, and Public Works from Allen J. Flake Sales Incorporated, Dobbs Equipment LLC, and Davao Ford Incorporated in accordance with Sourcewell Contract number 2021-120716-NAF and 06, Sourcewell Contract number 032119-BAI, Florida Sheriff's Association Contract number FSA 20-VEH 18.0, and Florida Sheriff's Association Contract number FSA 20-VEL 28.0 in the estimated amount of $501,755.
You've heard the consent docket. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent docket without commission discussion and including staff background provided in the commission packets.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. I would like to take a second to thank Mr. Anthony Serrano, who was appointed to the Planning Board, as well as Ted Jones and Margaret Linkhurst, who are reappointments to the Personnel Advisory Board. Thank you for serving the City of Largo. Next, we're going to move on to item number 11, resolution number 2300.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. Resolution number 2300 is the first public hearing for designating a new state of Florida brownfield area located at 14775 62nd Street North and 6100 150th Avenue, located north of Mears Court, east of 62nd Street North, south of 150th Avenue, and west of Sunset Street. The consultant for the applicant, Mr. Ricker Lamphere of Terracon, and the applicant, Mr. David Kern from Foundry Commercial, are present today should you have any questions about the request. The properties were voluntarily annexed into the city in April 2020 with an industrial limited land use and total approximately 8.2691 acres. The property owner, Carroll Investment Properties, Inc., has a contract to sell the 2 parcels to redevelop into a 125,000 square foot warehouse. This warehouse project is currently undergoing the site plan review process with community development, and the project was on the Development Review Committee agenda in February 2021, and a neighborhood information meeting was held on March 17, 2021. The property owner, through their contracted buyer and developer, Foundry Commercial, is requesting an individual brownfield designation for the 2 parcels, and the properties were the former agricultural Gardenia Nursery, also known as Carroll Nursery, which has been abandoned since 2013. The proposed brownfield area will overlay on the properties. The property owner, through their contracted buyer, is requesting the brownfield overlay because of concerns the properties may have some contamination due to general construction and demolition debris extending below the land surface and contaminants of concern. If the properties are found to have contamination, the designation will provide the property owner some relief under the Florida Brownfield Act. The state of Florida established the Brownfield program to assist local governments and property owners with redevelopment projects. Brownfield sites are typically abandoned, idle, or underused industrial or commercial properties where expansion, redevelopment, or reuse may be complicated by real or perceived environmental contamination. Evidence of contamination is not an eligibility requirement for the state brownfield designation, and designation alone does not imply that a property is contaminated. The designation does not render the city liable for costs of remediation, rehabilitation, or source removal. This designation would potentially allow the property owner financial and regulatory incentives provided by the Florida Brownfield Program. Cleaning up and investing in brownfield sites facilitates job growth, utilizes existing infrastructure, increases local tax bases, and removes development pressures on undeveloped open land, as well as both improving and protecting the environment. All requirements as specified in Chapter 376 of the state statutes have been met, except for the second advertisement, which will be published before the second and final public hearing, specifically on August 25th. The applicant has also provided a mailed notice to the properties within a 500 radius, and a public notice was posted at the subject properties. If the resolution is approved for a second reading and then adopted at a second reading in accordance with state statutes, then the city will notify the Florida Department of Environmental Protection of the city's designation of this brownfield area, so the applicant may proceed with negotiation of a brownfield site rehabilitation agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection. Staff is available to answer questions at this time.
Resolution number 2300, a resolution of the City of Largo, Florida, designating a new state of Florida brownfield area in the city of Largo, established in accordance with sections 166.041 and 376.77 through 376.85 Florida statutes on properties located north of Mears Court, east of 62nd Street North, south of 150th Avenue North, and west of Sunset Street within Section 5, Township 30 South, Range 16 East, Pinellas County, Florida, for the purposes of environmental remediation, rehabilitation, and economic development, providing for notice to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection of said designation, providing that this designation shall not obligate the city to pay any costs except those attributed to the city's involvement as administrator of the Brownfield Area Remediation and Rehabilitation Program, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
I have no cards.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes, maybe I missed it in the agenda. You said it's a warehouse. A warehouse for what?
The developer is here that can answer
I'd like to know,
questions.
please.
Go ahead and come to the podium, please. Thank you.
This helps us record so we can.
David Kern with Foundry Commercial. It's currently vacant land. We're proposing about 115,000 square foot warehouse on the property.
Of what? What kind of warehouse?
It'd be a dock-high warehouse for storing goods and for light manufacturing uses. It's about 32-foot high clear, dock doors, 5 feet off of ground elevation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? I had a question. You talked about some of the characteristics of a brownfield area. Are there DEP requirements for Brownsfield, or do we make that determination? Talk about that process just a little bit.
Yes, so the request, as part of the request, the applicant does have to meet certain criteria. There has to be a job creation criteria. For this property, the developer has indicated there's 50 jobs that would be created as part of the project. Additionally, they have to demonstrate that the project can be, that they have the ability to financially carry out the project, and they've provided some background and documentation from their lender. And as part of their negotiation of their brownfield site rehabilitation agreement, they're also required to create a committee related to this project, an advisory committee to advise, and they are required to report this to the Department of Environmental Protection. So we actually have one of the committee members here, Mr. Dan Nedvec from Pinellas County. He's the Brownfields coordinator. So they have provided the list of who they would be bringing onto the committee.
All right, thank you.
I move to approve resolution number 2300 on first reading and schedule a second reading and public hearing on September 7th, 2021.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you. Next up is ordinance number 2021-59.
Good evening. This is a second reading of ordinance number 2021-59, designating minor child play areas within city parks. This ordinance would limit the age of children using current playgrounds in city parks to 12 and under, as recommended by the manufacturer. During the August 3rd commission meeting, it was requested that staff research and look into the opportunity of adding a teen gathering area in Largo Central Park. A location has been identified in the park, which they should be putting on the screen here in a moment. Okay, so the area would actually be just to the east of parking lot 3, which is the one that is surrounded by the feed store and the playground, just to the side of the restrooms, but still close enough to the playground where they're comfortable, where they're used to hanging out, but also has that high visibility for staff to be able to see that area as well. It is currently, staff are looking at researching equipment that could be put out there as a gathering area for the teens to be able to use. And they plan to present these to the Youth Leadership Council at the September meeting. And in addition, a local foundation as well as a local service group has stepped up and expressed interest in funding this teen area within Largo Central Park. Staff are available for any questions.
Ordinance number 2021-59, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances to create Section 17-40 to provide for the designation of exclusive minor child play areas within city parks, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
I have no cards. I did receive one email on public comment at largo.com, and this is from Dana and Dan Oots, and they write, "Good evening, and thank you for hearing our comments on this issue. My husband and I are Largo residents, and we have young children. Though we are, for the most part, in favor of designating exclusive minor child play areas within city parks, we understand the dilemma of providing alternate areas for teens to safely gather. The problems we have faced range from older teens obstructing play areas, making fun of young children, and swearing loudly even when asked politely not to do so. This has happened at the playground at Largo Central Park and also at Morningside in Clearwater. We love seeing older kids enjoying the playgrounds, but there is often a lack of cooperation and/or yielding to youth at play, which creates an unsafe environment for young children and their caregivers. If there could be a general code of conduct introduced to allow older kids to still enjoy the playgrounds while yielding to youth at play, possibly a cooperative spirit could be achieved. Though this idea is not an immediate solution, it would have helped us to know that we at least had the grounds to report the behaviors that made it necessary for us to leave the playground, or in some cases, to not enter at all. Thank you for considering our input this evening. This is not an easy decision by any means, but as Largo residents with young children, we appreciate the dialogue and your time.
Thank you. I believe Commissioner Gerard has a question.
Krista, do you have any idea as a timeline when this might take place?
No, I do believe it's something that we could start very shortly. We would want to get feedback from the Youth Leadership Council as well as some other teen groups, just on their feedback on the equipment. And as I did mention, we potentially have a funding source as well.
So this would be designated, there would be some signage there or something to say the teen,
Yes.
teen zone, yeah. So, all right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I was firmly in opposition to this ordinance on both readings. If we can state that our intent is to create a teen area like this, I could see myself supporting it if the ordinance took effect at the same time that the teen area was opened.
Thank you. Commissioner Carroll.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm happy to see what you've done here with exploring the concerns of this commission in the last discussion. I've spent a little time talking to law enforcement and parks personnel and some parents about this. I was happy to hear some alternatives and some compromise solutions that were offered last time. As you might guess, I'm kind of a law and order type of person, but I'm also not really interested in killing an ant with a sledgehammer either. So I don't want it to be, as the saying goes, a solution in search of a problem. So I'm interested to know, you mentioned a little bit about funding sources. You might have some community partners that might be able to help, and you've explored that. Is that
Yes.
true? For the teen, which is separate and apart from what we really started talking about here, but it's just kind of it's an offshoot of what we were talking about. My main concern is, and I firmly believe that playground was paid for and constructed for a specific age group, but I heard a lot of comments up here that could perhaps allow me to find some middle ground and explore other alternatives. Having said that, I'll be interested to see, how my fellow commissioners feel about this. Not really a question in there, Mayor. I just wanted to tell you that.
I won't give you an answer then. Vice Mayor Robinson.
Thank you. So I do want to say that I'm happy to hear that we have started looking at some other alternatives, but I'm still not, I'm excited about the ordinance in of itself, because I believe what happens then is we are killing ants with sledgehammers. I think it's just the wrong way to go. I think there's a few more steps we could go or do before we get to that point. It's frustrating to me that was the first reaction of all the people who came together to put this on here. So I can't support the ordinance as is, and I think we've all had plenty of conversations about that. But I am very supportive of I think putting the teen zone or whatever we're going to have. I think that will probably eliminate all these issues anyhow. I would, kind of going on to Commissioner Gerard's comments. If I can't support this ordinance ever. I just think it's bad. But if we are going to enact something like this, I think at the same time having this new area open, I think it's automatically going to take care of all the issues that we're seeing. Not all of them, but the vast majority of those issues at that time. So that's all I have, and we don't need to talk about this for the next 4 hours like we did last week. So
All right, I
appreciate it. Thank you all for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Mayor, I had just something I forgot to
If you
say.
thought of a question?
This is not a question, but it's a statement. I was concerned, even though I was a little bit under the weather last time, and anyone who has ever served in uniform will tell you that when you are sitting somewhere and a parent points to the person in uniform and says, if you don't behave yourself, that person's going to put you in jail, that just makes your blood boil. In fact, well, back before body cameras, we used to have discussions about that, very, up close and personal discussions about why you shouldn't say that to young children. So it concerned me, some comments that were made previously, that as a teenager, if an officer approached a group of teens, it would automatically or tend to lead to some negative contact, and that's exactly what we are trying to avoid. So I just wanted to get that off my chest, that from my history, I really don't appreciate it when people feel that the officer approaching them is some sort of an adversary. So thanks for hearing me on that. No question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I know that our officers go out of their way to try to build good rapport with all the residents of Largo, not just the teens, but everybody. Commissioner Hulk.
Yes, thank you. So, as everybody knows, I'm in full support of this item, this ordinance. But one of the things that I'm really proud about this commission is that we have always been able to compromise. And I will say that I don't have a problem with this going forward and becoming effective when the other area is made available. I think it's a compromise to some of the conversations that we have had. I don't think that it may or may not have to be used once that other area is open. But just to, when this was first brought to us, the statement was that the police needed just some kind of teeth to be able to enforce the removal of teenagers from that area if they're causing problems. And a lot of it was put on top, on the Parks and Recs department, and that's not their job to, tell teenagers you're not supposed to be here. The other thing is, Krista said that her statement about the manufacturer of the equipment states an age group. So those teenagers should not be hanging out on there because it's not made for them. It's not made for their size. So, like I said, I support Commissioner Gerard's suggestion of putting this in effect after that other area is set up for them. And I just feel that that is a form of compromise, which, as I said, a lot of people are, that's one of the things that I hear most about our commission is how we are able to compromise and come to an agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. I did have just some clarification. The ordinance as it's written, and I certainly appreciate the efforts to designate a space. I'm anxious. I guess anxious is probably the word, to see what it is that we're going to put there that teens will decide, okay, that's where we're going to hang out, because that's a tough target, I think, to hit. But I think you guys are up to the challenge, and certainly if we go and ask the teen board and get a lot of input from the community, maybe it'll be a really cool little place that is repeated around the country in parks and playgrounds, like other things that we've done here in Largo. So I'm excited about that. But the ordinance allows people that are 12 and under. If you're over 12, you have to either be with somebody that's 12 or under or with a supervising parent. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it doesn't ban somebody that's 14 or 13 or whatever that wants to play there, but they would have to be with a parent or a younger sibling.
They would either need to be supervising a child or be accompanied with.
Or, okay, because I think that's something that was, I watched the last meeting, I wasn't here, but I don't know that was touched on, and I think that's an important thing. And I'm perfectly happy. I think the ordinance is necessary, but I do think that it'd be fine to wait until there's an area that's designated specifically 14, teens. And as was stated already, it may not even be necessary once that space is designated, because it'd be a lot easier for a parks staff or somebody to say, hey, you can't be here, but that spot right over there is specifically for teens. But I do still kind of think it's necessary. And I appreciate all the works. And the last thing was that I kind of disagree that this was the first reaction. Like we've had a playground there for how many years? And for many years, we've had some issues, not a lot of issues, but we've had some issues. And I know park staff has looked at better solutions, and the police department has worked with park staff to try to figure out some solutions. What brought us to this is kind of an exasperation of the folks that are dealing with this on occasion, and really get to the point with some teens that there isn't an answer. So I'm glad that we'll have two answers. One might be an ordinance, and one might be an area that's designated for teens in the park, specifically for teens. And I wonder if we're going to allow 50-year-olds in the teen area.
We'll pass an ordinance.
I'm asking for a friend.
No, there'll be an ordinance coming for that.
That's right.
Vice Mayor Robinson.
So, thank you, and I'm sorry, I wanted to be done with this, but I just can't, I can't let it go. So, I'm gonna continue to advocate for the teenagers here in the city of Largo. You know, we continually talk about wanting to include everybody in everything we do, and we are specifically denying any teenager who's not with a supervisor, or with their adult parent, the ability to play in the park. And not just Largo Central Park, correct? It's every single park in the city of Largo.
Oh, it's the
Playground, excuse me. So all right, so every single playground in the city of Largo, you can no longer, as a teenager, play in. So the circumstances are going to continually come up where somebody doesn't want a teenager in that position, and they're going to call the police officers. I understand we're not going to come lights and sirens. It's going to be a delayed call, and I get all that. But again, we're creating a problem instead of solving a problem. And I would say this, as a parent of teenagers, or don't let my 21-year-old just call her a teenager, but I could not tell you a time where my kids want to go to the park and hang out with me in the playground. If they're going to go to the park, they're going to go with their teenage friends and hang out at the park. That's just what they're going to do, and they're more than likely going to be in the playground area because that's where they go. So, I'm not changing anybody's mind. I'm very, very frustrated with the fact that we're even here talking about having the police. And again, John, I agree with you. I don't want anybody to have an adversarial relationship with the police officers. And I think by eliminating possibilities where we're going to have those interactions are one of the ways that we cannot have to put our police officers in those situations. I think, we could hire a staff person to be an attendant at the park. There's 6 or 7 other, things that we could do to eliminate the problem, and we haven't gotten there. I do want to see this new zone done as soon as possible, and Chris, I appreciate you reaching out for the youth council, and we'll be working together with you here on this here soon. So I'm absolutely looking forward to that, but I can't support this at any point ever.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Finger.
Thank you. 2 things. At our last meeting, we were presented with really good numbers by our police chief, and I'm not sure, and that surely could just be for us to be able to have a crystal ball and forecast whether those numbers would be higher by us now including an ordinance, or if it would be less. Who knows? But by the numbers that we were talking about at our last meeting, and the numbers are very low as far as being called out to the park, specifically to Central Park. That's what, right, we were talking about only. Then I don't see it as Commissioner Robinson was saying that we're creating a problem, because it's already there. Like the age is already in the equipment, as we've talked about. The procedures are already in place for recreation staff. That all of that is there. It's just this one last piece that gives them the ability to take further action if they have to. And the last thing is that when we're talking about teens and we're talking about age, little kids, all that, but we're also remiss if we don't consider it as the entire community. So based on that email we just listened to and some other feedback that we've received, it's about safety that you feel, and that's different upon anybody who enters the park with their kids, whether in the situation of having a 15-year-old and perhaps a 3-year-old together and everybody's together, that's fine. But perhaps someone or something is there that is making that parent or a grandparent just feel unsafe. And through all the public outreach we've ever done, we see safety as a number, in our top 3 of what do you want in the city of Largo. And people want to feel safe. I think that's what this accomplishes, much of. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gerard.
Thank you. Chief, have you had the opportunity, or do you have a sense, a feel for how your officers might feel about being called out to the park on a wild teenager in the playground?
Thank you for asking the question. So first I want to preface that we never had the discussion about a teen area before we jumped into the ordinance, right? As I commented last meeting, I don't think it's appropriate to put law enforcement in that position of chasing kids out of that the younger park without having them a place to go. We're just going to farm them off somewhere else to create another problem. So until we solve that part of it, which I think Krista has here today as an opportunity, that's the first step. 2, let's go back a year in time when law enforcement was really under fire, and a lot of enforcement action was discussed about taking away what law enforcement should be doing. Now we're going to be talking about putting law enforcement to enforce juveniles in a playground, and I can guarantee you, and I'll have a sergeant that'll probably agree with me, you're going to have the juveniles that are going to challenge law enforcement, put the video cameras out there, and just see how far they can take it. Honestly, I don't want to put my officers in the position of being on the news because we had to use force on a juvenile to remove them from a playground. That's not going to look good for the city. That's my statement.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. I would also like to say, then I believe it was, if I recall your numbers correctly, there were like 13 calls to the playground, to the playground between January and June or July, I believe.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
it was, I think one year was 9 and the other was 13.
Yeah. This year, I think it was in 21, it was 13 calls. I would submit that 13 calls on teenagers at the park in 6 or 7 months is not a tiny number. I just want to say that. Not a tiny number. If police are called to any area twice a month, month after month after month, that's a problem area. So, but.
Walmart lately?
Exactly, But as I said, if we can have a teen area that's attractive to teens, then that's an alternative. And if they've got, and I don't know what it's going to look like, and of course you're going to be consulting with the youth council, if it's going to be attractive and give them something that they can blow off some energy on, then,
Currently find that the teens, when they're in Largo Central Park, are generally hanging out on like the rocks and some of those more social areas. So really what we're looking to do is add some swings and maybe some sitting areas where they can gather, be able to socialize, but not necessarily playground equipment.
right, but
More of a
something that, yeah,
gathering.
something that they can, interact with.
Correct.
Okay, great. If we're going to do this, then I will support. I don't like the ordinance. I want to be very clear. I don't like the ordinance, but I think it's a compromise that I can live with. Is it possible to get a consensus from the commission that they would support this kind of a teen area and we could move forward on it?
I've got a question before we.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
Commissioner Hulk had a question as well. Commissioner Hulk?
Yes, Chris, I just wanted to ask Krista, do our other playgrounds have age signs that say what the age limit is on that equipment? Because I know the equipment in Largo Central Park is kind of more specialized, and it seems like the other parks have more of your basic swings and merry-go-rounds and things like that. So are there actual signs out there with stating age limits?
Yes, all of the playgrounds that we currently have generally have two sections, either under 5 and then a 5 to 12 section. One of the things we are proposing for the new Bayhead is potentially putting in a playground set there that would be for children 13 and over.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Robinson.
Thank you. Just real quick, and Chief, thank you for your statement. That's why you get paid the big bucks, and I just sit up here and raise my hand every once in a while. But I think, though, that I would like to ask if we could table this ordinance until we are able to, 6 months down the road, whatever it is, have this new area open. And at that time, when we're ready to open this new area, if we, if the sentiment of the commission is still the same, then we could pass this ordinance at that point. Is there?
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is a motion.
All right, so the motion is to table this until,
Until we're able to open up the new teen zone in Largo Central.
some period of time after that? Because I think that, if we're gonna revisit this in the future and not today, I think it would make sense to revisit it a little while after the new area opens.
Let's give it, 6 months after the teen zone is open.
I'll second that motion for, discussion purposes, yes.
So, please go ahead.
Okay, you have a motion and a second.
Any further discussion?
But I don't want to lose sight of the fact we want our parents with young children to feel safe there. So if that involves some kind of law enforcement training or whatever for the park staff to know what the boundaries are, when they can push people out, all those sorts of things. That's my goal, is to make sure that people who are using that park feel safe. And however you two get there is fine with me, but I can definitely support the compromise position on this. I think it's a good discussion, but I think it's been a very long discussion.
Agreed.
So
I do have a question, but a comment first. I'm okay with, I'm fine with passing the ordinance that will go into effect when that thing's complete, or even revisiting the ordinance at a time certain after the new teen area. We haven't come up with a cool name yet, but teen zone is up and running, and see if the problem kind of goes away on its own. My question, though, is for the chief, and I certainly understand your comments, and I understand your stance on that, and I totally agree with you. But I'm curious what you would suggest, aside from what we're doing, could be a solution. Because I know that there was a police officer that came here before us and talked about, with a very small number of teens that are there running off parents with small children, they get to a point where the teen realizes that they don't have any rule, any ordinance that doesn't allow me to be here, and they tell the officer that, and the officer has to say, you're right, I can just ask you politely, and you can tell me the pound dirt, and then I'm gonna go away. And then what happens is, the teen stays in the playground, and the parents that didn't want the teen to be there because it's designed for 5 to 12-year-olds, or 12 and under, I guess, they go away, and they may not come back. So that's how we got to here, I think. So what other solution do you have other than what we're doing?
As a lot of things got discussed over the last couple of years, is looking at different type of staff to fulfill that function. Is it necessarily to have to be a sworn law enforcement officer? Some parks have park rangers. Can you get a park ranger that is the person or the position that would help monitor that area and instruct and facilitate the rightful usage of the equipment?
So this is a little bit off the subject, but along those lines, since there's, 13 calls a year, would the park ranger find other things they could do the rest of the time in Largo Central Park right now? Are there other things that they could kind of deal with and help both the park staff and the police department?
I guess I haven't thought that far in advance, but if it's a park ranger per se, that you would have the function of using or patrolling all the parks,
Yeah.
not just Largo Central
All
Park.
right. Thank you. Commissioner Finger.
Thank you. I'm glad that you brought that up, Mayor, because I was thinking about that as the chief as you were stating your position, because the position we heard from a different officer, I guess at one of our work sessions, had a very different view than what you explained, in the sense that he did explain, as the mayor is saying, that oftentimes it's not, when he does have to approach that area upon a call, it is not friendly language, and kids are not not afraid to use that language towards you guys, and then that's what it is. It's just okay, and I think you said, go pound sand or something. So I think that's what's happens. So if there is that one, maybe it's just that one encounter, and that's all it takes, or maybe it's 5 encounters. We're not here, we don't know, and then by no means are we here to say that we want that to happen. But he did explain to us what does happen, and some of us, when we grew up, that wasn't okay. So it's off, I don't understand that. So the second thing is that I agree with Commissioner Hulk when she said the consensus would be to adopt the ordinance today, along with adopting or agreeing with how whatever the teen area may be called. I believe that is, or no, did I say consensus? But I believe that's that wasn't the right word.
So yeah, to be clear, I just confirmed.
She knows what she was saying.
Vice Mayor Robinson, to be clear, the motion that's on the floor is to.
Compromise. Thank you, Don.
Yeah, I'm sorry, thank you. The motion on the floor is to table this item until 6 months after the teen center has a ribbon cutting.
May I respond to Commissioner Finger's comment?
Please do.
If in lieu of the ordinance, right, and I know where Deputy Chief was coming from, we really didn't dig into the statistics at the time.
Sure.
However, if a particular individual does get to that level, then we move into state statute. Are they disorderly conduct? There'll be the criminal charge we move into, and it doesn't, so we do have something to fall back on without just jumping right into an ordinance violation, which is, going to be a small citation that's going to engage us in probably different activity. Once we get to that criminal level, it's different.
And we don't.
It's different for the officer.
Yeah, and I understand. I don't think want any of that to happen. He was more so providing examples of what does happen, and that's part of what makes the City of Largo residents feel unsafe in those situations, as he gave us examples of what does happen. So, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to get some clarification from Mr. Zimmett.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could, Vice Mayor Robinson, the motion to table, so I want to make sure that we understand and it's clear what your motion is intended to do. Are you continuing the second reading of the ordinance? Or are you suggesting that really essentially what the commission would be doing was be denying this ordinance, disapproving it, and then we would come back and start over 6 months after the teen area is addressed?
I'd say, I'd prefer to never see it again, but that's my preference, and I think that there might be a little bit more of an appetite to continue the second reading until 6 months after the new zone is built.
Okay, so then rather than table, can we use the word continue?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was a friendly amendment to the motion. Who was the second?
I was the second, and I'll second that again.
Okay.
To continue it.
So if there's no further discussion, Ms. Bruner, could you pull the board, please?
Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Fenger?
No.
Commissioner Gerard?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
No.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hulk?
No.
Commissioner Carroll?
No.
Okay, motion is denied 2-5.
I'll entertain another motion. The item is still on the floor.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2021-59 on second attempt of second and final reading. And what would I have to add, I guess, about the playground equipment? Nothing. It just happens.
You want an effective date, or do you want to have it effective at the passing of this motion?
Right, I would have the ordinance passed today. I guess nothing, right?
If you want the ordinance to be passed today and become effective immediately, then you don't have to do anything.
Our discussion then was just knowing that the playground equipment is coming, or did you want it to be at the same time as the playground equipment?
Well, so it's your motion, but there was some discussion about,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to add.
there was some discussion about whether it would become effective immediately or it would become effective at the completion of this separate zone. If it becomes effective immediately, it doesn't guarantee that there's ever a zone.
Right, so
In
how,
fact, it doesn't guarantee that there's ever a zone, even if it doesn't become effective immediately, because if we don't put a zone, it never becomes effective, right?
how do we tie it to the time frame of the teen zone that we're discussing?
That's exactly what I had, that was exactly what you just voted no against.
No, because this is actually implementing the ordinance at the time that a teen zone is built. That's not what,
That wasn't the previous ordinance.
Yeah.
But is that your motion?
I'm asking attorneys, how would that be?
I don't know how you would formulate that, approve the ordinance today and formulate that, because we don't have, we don't know when that's going to be or if it's definitely going to be. So there's no way to formulate the effective date of the ordinance. Again, just picking up on what the vice mayor said, the way to do that would be to continue second reading and have the ordinance be brought back in a certain period of time. Presumably during that period of time, the teen area could either be established or some decision was made that it couldn't be done, and the commission would be aware of that.
Okay, so then, did you have something? Okay, then I'm just going to leave it as I move to adopt ordinance number 2021-59 on second attempt of second and final reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to pass the ordinance as is. Commissioner Gerard.
Thank you, and I will grant that this conversation has gone on a long time, but there's a lot of emotion involved and a lot of caring for all of our citizens. I supported Vice Mayor Robinson's motion to continue, because it gives us time to put in place what otherwise is not going to, well, what otherwise is not guaranteed to be put in place, and then to judge its effectiveness. To pass this ordinance right now, the ordinance will take place right away, will become effective right away, which is the way the motion was made. And as Chief Understad said, you're going to be in a situation where you're pushing teenagers out of that playground and they have no place to go, and that's going to cause more trouble than if we waited a little bit and gave them someplace to go that's attractive. The problem would probably solve itself, but the ordinance can be there. But if we do it now and it takes place immediately, you know, I just feel certain, without doing any polling myself, that once people realize they can call the police, they will call the police. You know, I just believe that, and I don't think the chief wants that. I don't think the officers want that, and I think we have a compromise that would be good for everybody and make everybody happy. So that's it. You know, I'm not going to vote for this the way it's presented.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I completely understand Commissioner Gerard's position, but I think we have to look beyond the 13 visits or that you're referring to for the park, that PD had to be there, and again, consider the community and how many calls they did not receive because people don't want to bother, or for recreation as well. They don't want to, they don't know, they don't want to bother, then they just leave. And I believe it was Commissioner Carroll who brought that up, that he's seen that before at the park, just as he's using it himself with family. And that's the greater good that we have to be concerned about, are those that we don't even know who've left and not come back because of that. And I'm sure it's more than 13.
Well, this has been going on for a while.
No,
This incident at the park, yeah, this has been going on for a while. I think it came up 5 years ago. It's come back up now. I think a little bit of patience to wait for 90 days or even a little bit longer is not going to cause any great harm, but it could be a great benefit to everyone. So a little bit of patience at this point, I think, is the more prudent way to go. We don't need to do this right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Hulk.
Yeah, so I've been very adamant about this and how I feel about this. Okay, with Chief Understand's statement today, which I wish would have come to us in prior discussions, because it does shed a different light on this with modern technology, and God knows I know we've had a couple officers that have already encountered the filming, and it's not like they're doing, you know, I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong or anybody's doing anything wrong, but with our media and everything the way that it is nowadays, I never ever want any of our police officers, who I think we have some of the greatest in the county, to ever be put in that position. So now I'm like even more torn because I feel so adamant about the safety of our kids at those parks. The safety of the kids, their parents. I think it's wrong when parents have to take their kids out of there or don't come back because of situations. But I don't ever want to put our police officers in a situation where they're going to be made to look like they did something wrong. And not one of us up here can say that's never happened, because we've seen it. We've seen what the media does. We've seen what kids do. We see social media, the news media. If they're given the opportunity to sensationalize something, they will. And I just can't, like I said, I just wish that part would have, you know, and why none of us actually ever thought about it, with everything the way it is nowadays, especially, you know, I just wish that would have come up before we did any of our voting. In all of the discussions that we've had, you know, it was 2 hours last time and an hour and a half the time before. So I'm just now I'm like even more torn because, like I said, I believe in the safety of our kids, you know, but I also believe in the safety of our officers, and I would never want any of them in a situation where they're being accused of something because they were doing their job. But all it takes is one media person to not like them and could ruin their whole career. So I'd almost like to go back to that first vote where we put this off voting for it until the teen zone is built and we have some more numbers, you know, statistics as to the calls. As far as park rangers, no, but hey, we have resource officers that know these kids because they're at the schools that they're at. So, you know, it just makes it hard when all of a sudden other things are thrown into this mix, which is how I feel about, you know, today I was like so positive, okay, this is it, I want this to go through. And now we've had, you know, a couple of things thrown in there that kind of changed the perspective. I thank Krista immensely. I think it's awesome that you were able to come up with funding and ideas and area for this other section. But I just, you know, to serve and protect. We have to protect our officers. We have to protect our citizens. So now this is kind of like a right word quagmire. I don't know. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
I'm just saying, I did second it, but I will be voting no on this one also. I'd like to see the area, but actually I think it's open to what we have. So that's, I want to reach out to RP. You did an awesome job, y'all, coming up with this as quickly. Like I said, I gave at the one meeting 3 or 6 months or however. I think coming up this quick is awesome. I look forward to it and the ribbon cutting for it and letting all people enjoy our parks. So that's my opinion. So just to throw it out there.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second.
I was just going to, I agree with Commissioner Hulk as far as wishing we had thought of it ourselves or had the perspective of the chief as far as thinking, had we thought further about that as far as what it is, the perspective, what does it look like to someone else who may not have ever had that experience in a park or ever thought of that happening, because that certainly isn't something that I didn't think about, and it wasn't, I don't know, wasn't really brought to the height of our discussion, so.
Why don't we table it then?
I
Thank you,
appreciate it. Thank
Commissioner
you.
Gerard.
I was wondering if Commissioner Fanger wanted to withdraw her motion, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Can I, if you're not going to second it,
We can vote on it, or you can withdraw the motion.
yeah, I just withdraw my motion.
all right. Krista, how soon can you come to us with something that, you know, that is doable or is a very good concept? And I know it's a lot of pressure on you, but how fast do you think you can get something like this put together?
We plan to take it to the Youth Leadership Council in September, so I would say maybe the first meeting in October, we could have something preliminary back to you.
And then if we approve it, you know, what is it, another 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to put it together?
It would really depend on what the equipment is, where it's coming from, and the delivery time and all of that.
Okay. I think I stated it was an unfair question, so thank you.
Thank you. So if there's I don't see any further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, or I was going to table it till the end of the discussion, but I don't think we have that much time. I'm going to move to deny ordinance number 2021-59 on second attempt of second and final reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, could you please pull, I did look around and then just skipped that.
Commissioner Fanger?
Thank you.
No,
That was no.
no.
Commissioner Gerard?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hulk?
Commissioner Hulk, I didn't,
Yes, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Carroll?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
thank you. And thank you for all your hard work on this. Hopefully we have a teen zone and we don't have to discuss keeping teens out of the young kid playground anymore.
So do we have a consensus, excuse me, but I'm new, do we have a consensus that we are going to develop a teen zone or take a very hard look at it, right?
Well, I think that will come back to us.
Yeah.
It will come back to us.
Thank you.
I have the utmost confidence in our staff that they got that.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you,
It
Kristen.
was very clear, it will come back.
Very good. Next, we have item number 13.
Hey, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. This is a request to negotiate a development agreement. I am going to pull up the overhead camera real quick to show you the location of this property.
I know where this property is.
We've probably all seen it.
Okay. So this is a request from Hill Ward Henderson, agent for the property owners located at the 500 and 600 blocks of West Bay Drive. They are requesting the authorization to negotiate a development agreement for the redevelopment of these properties. It's approximately 2.76 acres and has a future land use designation of West Bay Drive Community Redevelopment District, Mixed Use Corridor, Character District. And this is just a map to show you the Character District. So the DA, so the applicant is proposing to construct a 280-unit multifamily mixed-use development project on these two blocks. The DA would allow for a bonus density options of the West Bay Drive Clearwater Community Redevelopment District and provide a conceptual site plan addressing the buffering, site improvements, and other potential mitigation on site. Staff is requesting City Commission authorization for the DCO, the Development Controls Officer, to negotiate the development agreement with the applicant. If authorized to negotiate the development agreement, staff will bring back the proposed terms and conditions to the City Commission for consideration of a future meeting. And I just want to clarify that this site did have a former development agreement on it and a development order. It's expired. So this is a new request from a new developer working with the property owner. And there's also, the developer is here. If you have any questions, Mr. John Glickman, as well as their representative, Katie Cole. And also, I will mention our economic development manager is here to speak if there's any questions on the relationship between the development agreement and the repurchasing agreement, and staff's available for questions.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
I have one card, Katie Cole.
Good evening. I'm Katie Cole with Hill Ward Henderson, representing the applicant. Happy to respond to the questions, but the staff obviously provided the background. You all are well aware of this site and the long history, and I'll just say that our client is looking forward to finishing out with Mr. Schubert and Mr. Zimmett, the draft repurchase agreement to bring back a total package for you all and see this move along quickly and efficiently, and hopefully you'll end up with a new city hall and a new multifamily project all at the same time here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff would just like to reiterate that this request to begin negotiations for the development agreement is a separate process from the Third Amendment to the repurchase agreement for the 500 block of West Bay Drive. The legal teams continue to negotiate the terms of the repurchase agreement as led by Attorney Zimmett, and this negotiation should not impact the developer's ability to start the development agreement negotiation process. So they can go ahead and begin the process for negotiating the density bonuses available under the West Bay Drive Community Redevelopment District Plan. So we hope to wrap up this negotiation process soon so that they can go ahead and begin their development agreement. But it should not hold up this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff's available for questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I'm supportive of it, but I am a little hesitant and look forward to seeing more of the information after, but wasn't the original, was 124 or something?
Yep, it was about 123 was the original. So they will be utilizing our newer density averaging ordinance that was adopted from other properties in order to get to the 280.
Okay, I'm really hesitant on that one, but I'll figure it out later. But thank you.
Thank you. I had a question about, can you go back to the map with the future land uses? On the map that I looked at in the West Bay Drive plan, it doesn't have this city home, which is the brown coming down onto that block. I know that it's probably irrelevant for this matter, but it seems like there's something wrong with this map. Like, there's just a single-family home on the north end of, the 600 block that's not in this development. So I want to make sure that we have the lines drawn correctly. So I think that black line should be up just a little bit, and that whole block is pink, without any brown in there. It just seems like something weird happened with the map.
That could be a glitch, so I will look at that and see if it's doing something funny in GIS.
And what we can check into that, what I think that is that map before you does not depict the properties the city purchased many years ago to extend First Avenue northwest westward.
Yeah.
So that brown area there is now city-owned property that the road punched through.
I know it's brown. Yeah.
Okay. That was my only question, but thank you. Any other questions?
I move to authorize the Development Control Officer to negotiate a development agreement with Hillward Henderson, agent to the property owners Largo Central LLC and 500-600 West Bay Drive LLC.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I did think of a question during that motion. What kind of timeline can we expect, in a reasonable expectation of timeline as far as development agreement, moving towards the approval of the repurchase agreement, and moving towards something happening?
So I can speak to the development agreement process. It tends to take about 3 months, and it's because of all the public hearings involved. It can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months typically, and that's because what will happen is after this, we'll start negotiations. We'll take them through a pre-DRC meeting, Development Review Committee meeting, and finish off the negotiations with terms and conditions. And then what we'll do is we'll bring those terms and conditions back before the City Commission for approval for our city attorney to draft that into the development agreement. So that'll add another public hearing. And then after that, that development agreement will go through Planning Board, also City Commission first reading. And then if that were to get approved, that's where it would end.
Okay.
So
that, from the process to potential approval of the development agreement will take 4 or 5 months?
yeah, approximately maybe 3 to 5 months,
Okay.
typically 3 to 4.
Thank you. And you touched on it, but there's several public meetings in that process, including a couple commission meetings and
Yes.
outreach meetings and stuff. Yep. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is ordinance number 2021-69.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Ordinance 2021-69 is a budget amendment in the amount of $120,000 within the Human Resources Department Risk Services Fund.
So the Risk Services Fund manages all of our insurance programs. The largest annual expense is our health insurance, and that one is somewhat more predictable. The other part of the risk fund within the Human Resources Department, a big part of it is our property and liability and our workers' compensation programs. And with programs like that, we try and budget and predict to the best of our ability what we think our expenditures are going to be. But because of the nature of those types of cases and claims, they are unpredictable during the year. So any given year can be very different. And so in the case of this year, some of our things like attorney's fees and claims expenses have run a bit higher than we anticipated. So this budget amendment is just making sure we have sufficient appropriation for the known expenses this year. Staff's available for any questions.
Ordinance number 2021-69, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, amending the fiscal year 2021 budget adopted by Resolution 2279 by appropriating expenditures in the amount of $120,000 within the Human Resources Risk Services Fund budget, providing an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
I have no cards.
Any questions?
I move to approve ordinance number 2021-69 on first reading and schedule a second reading and public hearing on September 7th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next is ordinance number 2021-71.
Good evening. This item is the first reading for ordinance 2021-71 for the vacation of a 20-foot wide public sidewalk, drainage, and access easement located at Brookside Villas on 14th Street Northwest. I'm going to just put the map here so you can see it.
Are our displays going to come back up?
They will, yeah.
Okay.
Typically. There you go.
The property owner, Brookside Villas Property Owners Association, Inc., has requested that the city approve the vacation of the easement so that the segment of sidewalk within the easement area can be removed. The easement is located within an overall property tract that's dedicated for drainage and access that will continue to provide the city the right to use and maintain the area for those purposes. The vacation is only intended for to remove the 20-foot wide area as dedicated for a public sidewalk. The proposed vacation of easement meets the appropriate standards of the city Comprehensive Development Code, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about this item.
Ordinance number 2021-71, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, vacating a 20-foot wide public sidewalk, drainage, and access easement located between lots 17 and 18, Brookside Villas, as recorded in Plat Book 140, pages 75 through 78, Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
I have no cards.
Any questions? I would say my concern that I have with this is that we are, as a city, we're really trying to connect things. And by that I mean, we don't want a commercial area that is here, but to go from your house that's right over here, you got to walk all the way out to East Bay Drive and back to the commercial area. So I meant to get over there, but it was raining yesterday. And take a look at where exactly we're talking about. So can you tell me about the connectivity and what we're doing to help with folks that are trying to get around in other ways than their car?
Sure.
And how this would either impact it or not?
Well, the residential community shared your desire to offer that alternate access through their private property to the small city park that's behind there on 16th Street. They put the sidewalk in voluntarily. Unfortunately, over time, there's just been multiple problems with
the destruction of private property, disturbances. It's turned into something that they just can't solve, and they would like to have the sidewalk removed.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gerard.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very familiar with this situation here, and that sidewalk has become a real problem for the residents there. Police have been called out on a number of occasions because of disturbances there, people using that sidewalk late at night, and it's right between two private homes. It's not really, if you were to see it, you would say, well, this never should have been here in the first place. It's right between two private homes, and it really should be vacated so they can remove that sidewalk.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Just out of curiosity, how many people petitioned the city for this? Is this just the neighborhood association petition, but are we talking 5 people in an association or 100 people in that neighborhood? Do we know?
It was requested by the property owners. I don't know a number, I don't have a number of, but the property owner association, which contains a group of property owners, has requested this.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this also, and it's essentially, it's the HOA that represents the villa development. So there's around 22 villas, I think, if I remember right. So it was that HOA that made the request.
Okay.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Robinson.
Yeah, thank you. Does this sidewalk, does it connect the 6th or just leads into the park?
It leads into the park. Mhm.
Okay, so you're having folks come up 14th. I'm assuming the issue is walking down 14th and cutting over to the park?
That's correct.
Probably those kids. Teenagers. You know how they are.
Possible. Don't look back.
So, all right, just a question. I'm just trying to figure out where it connects.
Thank you. So do you know if are they going to put a fence along the back of the property? Because people that are troublemakers don't always follow the sidewalk.
It's my understanding that there is currently a fence there. A gate,
Between-
with a gate.
Okay. Commissioner Gerard.
Yeah, good question, Mayor. There is a fence there. I've been there a number of times. There is a fence there, and there's a gate that is locked. And what's happening is people are climbing over the fence, breaking shrubbery, that's in people's backyards. And the sidewalk serves no useful purpose other than to create, a disturbance for the people who are living there.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Before these villas were put there, that was an empty lot. I mean, I grew up on that lot. My best friend all through growing up, his grandmother owned that. So my question is, I'm familiar with it before they put all the villas in there. My question is, if people are used to now having a sidewalk and then the sidewalk gets removed, I think it helps for the fact that they can remove the sidewalk if we give them the easement. But, does it really eliminate the problem? I guess that's not for us to figure out. But I think, to the mayor's point of connectivity, there's we've been struggling in that area for a long time, and we've been working a lot towards it as well, trying to fix some of those issues. So it's concerning.
I would just say that sidewalk's in the wrong place. I understand connectivity, but that sidewalk's in the wrong place. It's between two homes that are very close together. It's not a sidewalk that connects one street to another street. It runs from the street right to a locked gate and a fence, and that's it. So to say connectivity, I believe it's a stretch.
Do you know if that, is that gate locked at night?
Or is there really no public access through that end of Northwest Park? Is that,
It's locked 24/7.
okay. So it wasn't designed to be a way to get just pedestrians walking along 14th into Northwest Park. It was designed for that neighborhood to get over to the park, is that correct? I mean, who's got a key to this gate? Mr. Schubert, do you have a key to the gate? I'm just kidding. Who uses it, like, with permission, I guess?
Currently, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Who uses it.
Can I ask a question? Is this gate a city gate?
Yeah, who's got keys, right?
It's private property.
We have an easement.
That's placed over the public sidewalk, across the public sidewalk?
I believe the gate is situated right at the end of the easement. I'd have to look at it more closely, but
Blocking, so it blocks people from using the public sidewalk?
well, if it's, that's correct, if it's locked. Now, in the beginning, that wasn't.
So then it was if it wasn't erected by the city, which
No,
the city can't do, it was erected illegally. That gate should not be there. And I think that's where the vice mayor was going. Private people can't put a gate up over a public sidewalk and prevent people from using it. So if the commission doesn't approve the vacation, then we're going to need to address this gate.
Just to clarify, the gate is not across the sidewalk. The gate is at the end of the sidewalk, at the fence to the park. I don't know if that makes a difference, but it's not across the sidewalk.
yeah, the sidewalk ends at a point right where the gate is.
But doesn't as I remember the plat, the sidewalk, the easement went from 14th to the park.
To the property line,
Of the
yes.
park.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a gate anywhere in that area, it's got to be in the easement area.
Or in the park?
Okay, well,
Or in
I
the
mean,
park.
the gate, I believe the gate is right on the property line. So,
The property line of what? I'm not sure which property
the
line.
shared property line between the neighborhood, the subdivision and the park, the shared property line.
Sounds like we need to
And the park is Largo's?
survey.
Sorry, was that Commissioner Hulk?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's our park, correct?
Correct, that's
Largo Park?
Northwest Park.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm that.
So I mean, personally, I see that there's an issue that they're looking for a solution to. I think, as I stated earlier, that we're really trying to solve transportation problems with sidewalks that connect things. One of those things are parks, right? Parks and neighborhoods and that type of thing. So I would really prefer to put this off a little bit so Mr. Zimmet can take a look at the gate and see what exactly is happening there. See if there's a better solution than taking away from our networks of sidewalks. I don't know if there is. Maybe we ultimately are going to take the easement out so that sidewalk can go away. I do understand it's an easement over private property, so I certainly have some sensitivity to that. But I think we should take a look at this and get some more answers before we act on it. That's just my opinion, though.
Mayor, if I may, I have met with a neighborhood association on the other side of the park over off of 16th. And probably some of the same issues that these folks are complaining about with, illegal or inappropriate activities in the park. They have the same complaint on the other side. So maybe it would be wise to take a look at the park itself. I mean, for after-hours activity. And
Maybe it's not a sidewalk problem, it's a park problem, and
well,
it starts
yeah,
with parks, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would ask along the lines of your question, if you're on 14th Avenue or one of those neighborhoods over around Pine or Fifth Terrace, how do you get to that little park if you want to? And that's going up around the Mellenbacher, right? So I don't know. I mean, I have the same question that Mr. Zimmett wondered, whose fence, whose gate, who's got the keys, you know? I don't believe the park's locked on the other side.
I don't think there's a fence at that park. I don't remember there being a fence at that park.
So, anyway, I would agree that maybe we need a little more information.
If we're going to try to get a little bit more information, I know that these folks here on 14th Street and the Homeowners Association have been trying to get this worked out with the city for a very long time. And this follows a number of calls to the police. This involves, you know, numerous attempts to get something to resolve it. And if we're going to postpone any discussion of this, I would hope that we could come back at the very next meeting and have some solid answers. These people, you know, they're being deprived their right to peaceful enjoyment of their property right now. And this vacation would solve that problem. And once again, I'll say I understand, you know, the desire for connectivity, but I think this is actually just a nuisance connectivity right here. People may have to take a walk up to Mellenbacher or whatever to get to the park, but right now what they're doing is they're cutting across private property, climbing fences, breaking shrubbery, and the reference to inappropriate activity is a mild way of putting it.
So was that a motion to continue till next meeting?
No, I was just commenting on Commissioner Carroll. If we're looking for a motion, I move to approve ordinance number 21-71 on first reading and schedule a second reading and public hearing on September 7th, 2021.
Do I hear a second? All right, hearing none, Vice Mayor Robinson.
Thank you. So, Commissioner Gerard, and I think, you know, obviously, if we bring this back or when this comes back, we can have a little bit more information, and maybe we can have the HOA, a representative of the HOA there to discuss it a little bit as well, to talk about some of their problems. But I would guess, though, that if there's a locked gate blocking this sidewalk, the reason the shrubs and fences are being broke is because people have to climb over a gate that shouldn't be there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the situation, but that would be my first guess. I mean, so anyhow, I think we can bring this back as soon as possible, as soon as we've gotten some more information as to, maybe we can talk to the HOA or.
Is that a motion?
Yes. So I would like to, should we just postpone it until the staff can come back with more information? Alan?
Yeah, you just want to continue it? This is only on first reading, so this isn't the advertised public hearing.
Okay, so we just need to continue it
You can just continue it, and we'll come back when we have the information.
Okay, do you need a date for that, or just
No.
anytime?
No, unless you want to put a deadline on us.
Okay, I don't.
Just a additional item, when it comes back, can you bring us pictures of that area as well?
Sure.
I mean, we'll be checking it out, but that sometimes helps in these types of presentations, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. So there was a motion to continue. Was there a second?
Oh, second.
As motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Did you have any?
Commissioner Holt, could you clarify your vote?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Motion,
Mayor, just for the record, you didn't ask, but there were no cards.
I didn't?
No, we don't think you did.
We can start over. Just kidding. Sorry about not asking for public comment, but I understand there was none. Thank you. And the motion passes 6-1. Mr. Zimmett, do you have anything else?
I have nothing tonight.
Commissioner Hulk?
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Carroll?
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Finger?
One item I'd like to say that our sustainable series, which is available on Facebook Live, is where I just watched it this past weekend, is really awesome. This past weekend, it was with the Florida Extension out of the Botanical Gardens that are just up the street. And they had on a chef who was discussing easy food recipes, quick and easy, as well as fresh, what's in season, what should you be looking for, fruits and vegetables, and taking questions at the same time. And it was it had a bunch of great information in there, and where you can go for additional information. So I say, check out our sustainability series. You don't even have to leave wherever you are. And it was very informative. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gerard.
I have nothing.
Vice Mayor Robinson.
Just real quick, wanted to say thank you to the members of the commission that were able to attend the Florida League of Cities conference last weekend. I appreciate y'all taking the time to learn more about what the some of the things that we can do as elected officials, and learn from other elected officials on what we should be and should not be doing. So yeah, thank you all for taking the time out of what I know is busy schedules for all of you, and in talking to all of you over there, I know that everybody really got a lot out of it. So thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, did I skip anyway? No. I just wanted to mention that I received a phone call yesterday from the superintendent of schools. I know I've told you all a year or so ago that I was unhappy, and the city manager as well was unhappy with kind of the relationship that had developed between the city of Largo and the school board and the school system, really. And the message was that he's seen a drastic turnaround and has heard it from staff at various positions and various levels at how pleased they are working with our staff here at the City of Largo. He mentioned a couple departments, including Parks and Recreation, Engineering, the Central Park Performing Arts Center. So I just wanted to say that, announce that to the staff, and thank you for your efforts. That was a priority of mine, and I'm really, schools are very integral to our city. The school board's headquarters is right here in the middle of Largo, so that's an important relationship, and thank you all for helping to foster a good one. Mr. Schubert.
And part of that enhanced relationship with the school system, we'll be providing you some information. There's going to be a high school swim tournament at Southwest Recreation at the swimming pool here sometime in the next couple of months. So we'll get you more information on that.
Are you ready to annex yet?
What's that?
One step at a time.
Yeah.
Any action items?
The only one I had was Commissioner Finger's request that when ordinance number 2021-71 is brought back, that photos of the easement area be provided.
Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.
Jamie.